Nice.
Welcome back, everybody, to What Do You Know with Nick and Devin. I'm Devin.
And I'm Nick.
And we today have a special, spooky, scary episode. Woo! So this episode and the next episode, in honor of our favorite pagan holiday, Halloween, are both going to be scary stories.
I really want that scene from like SpongeBob where Nosferatu pops out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, Nosferatu.
He says it's going to be Calvin, my dog, just flicking the light switch.
Our salon that Brandon and I go to, they do an annual Halloween party because like that's their like big thing.
Phenomenal.
Which is always fantastic. And our stylist is going as Count Orlok from Nosferatu.
Amazing.
And she was like, I put the teeth in. And she's like, I look like him. She was like, if I had like a little bit of a hunchback and claws for hands, you would be getting your haircut by Count Orlok. And I was like, that's
achievable.
Honestly, get it done.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Just start having really bad posture.
I was like, at that point, I don't think you need the razors. I think you could just use your hands. It's like Edward Scissorhands at that point. Yeah. Amazing.
So we're going to be doing scary stories for you this week and next week. And I want to get this right into a question for you.
Yeah.
And I want to ask if you believe in ghosts.
Ooh. I feel like it's similar to the God question in the sense of I need to see it to believe it.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I want to believe that there are ghosts.
Yeah.
And I've obviously heard all the compelling stories and quote unquote evidence and all of that. But at the same time, I'm like, science hasn't like said that yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, you know, next week we'll get into like my story and it kind of plays into a little bit of science, which is cool. Or like theoretical science.
Yeah.
And that's what I think I more believe in, where it's more like there's a deposit of energy, or there's like an alternate timeline kind of crossover or something like that.
Yeah.
More so than like I'm dead and my spirit is now in the world. You know what I mean?
I need to rest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I have also like, you know, like that feeling like when you like someone's watching you.
Oh yeah.
Like that's supposed to be like ghost related.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
I don't know. So yes and no.
Or like the shiver, like when you feel cold all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
What just passed through me. Yeah. Maybe you'll convince me today, Devin.
Okay. Well, we'll find out.
And then a ghost just slowly arises.
I've been a ghost the whole time.
Amazing.
I believe in I believe in ghosts.
Okay. Have you ever had an encounter with a ghost?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The house I grew up in certainly haunted.
Okay.
There were several times where when I was younger, like a kid, and like my siblings were off at school and it was just like me and my mom home. I would see like another kid like running to the front hallway and I'd be like, no one else is home. That's weird. I'd sometimes hear like, hello in like a little kid's voice. Oh. And I'd like be like, what, mom? And she'd be like, what?
So you're just screaming one at each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't say hello. What do you need? So that was like the first experiences I had. And then later in life, I want to say high school.
Okay.
I was in the basement, of course, obviously getting my pirate costume for the first day that I would wear my pirate costume in school, September 19th, National Talk Like a Pirate Day. Thank you very much.
I like that you dropped that in. Yeah, we were all really wondering.
And I was getting like gathering up all the costume parts, and there was an old rocking chair that I had as a kid down there, and I looked up and over, and there was just like a little boy rocking in the chair, and then I was like, what? And then they were gone. And that happened twice. Like a year later, again, that kind of similar interaction happened. So very bizarre. My mom also was like, oh yeah, like whenever I'm in the basement, like I always feel like I'm being watched and like all this other spooky shit. So the house I grew up in haunted.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Now, could you like, could you recognize like facial features on the kid, or do you just feel like it was just like generally like the outline of a child?
They seemed like super, like several generations old, like not of our time.
Okay, sure.
I believe that house was really only built in the 40s, if I remember correctly, like late 30s, early 40s. So it's hasn't been around for as long as one might expect, but like still definitely enough time to capture some spirits.
Yeah, that's bananas. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything like anywhere else other than at the house?
Nothing as strong a visual as that.
Okay.
But certainly been like, I'm not gonna fuck with this because I don't want to be here right now.
Got it.
I mean, of course, like any theater you've been in, all theaters are haunted. Blah blah blah. Thankfully, nothing at this house, even though this house was built in 1898. I think.
No spooky stories?
No.
Interesting.
No, yeah, I don't feel any like weird shit here, which is great.
I mean, honestly.
Right. I mean, I do have 2 dream catchers hanging up above my bed, but like that's a different story.
That might help.
So, yeah, that's my ghost story.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I think like I think the other thing that is like from a culture perspective, I think a lot of people, and especially like within the Hispanic and like Mexican culture, like death is so celebrated. So like welcoming ghosts and there's like this already like set belief of like ghosts are, it's just another part of the cycle of your timeline, right? Like
I get that. Yeah.
Whatever. And so there's just like always been this belief of, or like, you know, within religion, like you go to heaven and then they can come visit you and like all these things.
They're looking
and
down at you.
Right. So I think like growing up, like there's always you kind of always are led to believe that there's something after, like whether that's coping or whether that's like because of a culture or experiences. Mm-hmm. And so like I've always wanted the experience. I just have never.
Maybe you're just not opening your mind.
Maybe. My mind's eye is very closed. Sewn shut.
And all I have to say, Nick, is you best start believing in ghost stories. Because you're in one. Classic Pirates of the Caribbean story. So anyway, what do you know?
What?
Pirates of the Caribbean. Barbossa? Captain Barbossa?
I haven't seen it since it like came out. So sorry.
All right.
Sorry, everyone. We're going to be pausing so we can go watch the entirety of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Jesus Christ. All right. That's fine. There goes that line. All right. Let's get into the topic then.
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
just a little upset.
I'm so sorry.
What do you know about Resurrection Mary?
Oh, fuck. Okay. Some of my family is buried in that cemetery.
Yeah.
And I know she like hitchhikes. I think.
Yeah.
I think it's a big thing is that like something with a dance or like a prom or something, and then she hitchhikes and then she disappears. Ooh. That's all I got.
You're pretty spot on.
Okay.
So Resurrection Mary is one of, if not the most famous local Chicagoland area ghost story. And it is actually just over in Justice, Illinois, which is a very small town in between some of the west suburbs of Chicago. Southwest of Chicago, if you want to like
be specific. Be specific,
yeah.
Jesus, it's an educational podcast.
And this little town is actually not too far from where you and I grew up. Mm-hmm. And there's this infamous cemetery, Resurrection Cemetery.
Which already has such like a
right.
It's just like
what are we trying to do?
Right. Like you already put this like level and layer of like spooky, creepy, like just in the name.
You're just asking for it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Now I do want to clarify that we are talking about Resurrection Catholic Cemetery and Mausoleums in Justice, Illinois, that has a 3.5 star review on Google, and we're not talking about the Resurrection Cemetery in Romeoville, Illinois, with a 4.9 star review. Who rates reviews? I don't fucking know. Those people have something going on.
I would love to hear a review of a cemetery.
I think one of them amazing. For Resurrection Catholic Cemetery and Mausoleums was like, the staff was rude to me and kicked us out. And I was like, it was probably like well after dark.
Right. It was like your time to go. Like you like move on.
Right. So and I'm just going to refer to it as Resurrection Cemetery from now on. Cemetery and mausoleums. So since the 1930s, we have been getting reports of men picking up a young female hitchhiker along Archer Avenue between the Willowbrook Ballroom and Resurrection Cemetery. The young woman is always said to be wearing a white party dress and has light blonde hair with blue eyes. I'm just trying to make this spooky.
I like that her description is the spooky part.
Others claim she has a shawl, dancing shoes, a clutch,
Okay.
What you'd be having on you.
Typical things.
But then for each time the driver nears the cemetery as he's driving this young woman home, the young woman, as the passenger, she disappears seemingly into Resurrection Cemetery. Ooh.
You're doing a great job making this super spooky.
So this is supposed to be the ghost of Mary, Resurrection Mary. Mm. But what happened to poor Mary that made her spirit be unrestful and haunt Archer Avenue? So let's find out what happened to this poor girl.
Perfect.
So legend has it that one evening Mary was dancing with her boyfriend at the formerly called O. Henry Ballroom, which is now the Willowbrook Ballroom.
Oh, Henry.
Yeah, I don't know why it was called O. Henry, but here we are.
Okay.
And so, as all young love does, Mary and her BF get in a fight, an argument.
Ooh.
And Mary storms out, leaves the ballroom, and starts walking up Archer Avenue to go home.
Okay.
She doesn't make it very far, unfortunately, because she is hit by a driver. And she dies at the scene.
Oh my God.
The driver fled, of course.
Naturally.
Asshole.
Yeah.
And was never found. So Mary's parents were devastated when they found her body on the side of the road.
On the side of the road. They found her body?
And, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
They came across her dead body on the side of the road, devastated by, one, that discovery, and two, her death, obviously. Yeah. And then they buried Mary in Resurrection Cemetery. And when she was buried, she was wearing a beautiful white dress with matching dancing shoes. Like what you see when you pick up a young woman on the side of the road. Okay. So we have some reported sightings, because that's the legend of Mary.
Yeah.
So we have some reported sightings. In 1939, Jerry Pallas stated that he met a woman that he believed to be Resurrection Mary. He met her at Liberty Grove End Hall, which is at 47th and Mozart.
Oh.
So not at the Henry, which is kind of odd. But he said that he danced and even kissed her, which is like weird.
Yeah.
Like, oh, why are you trying to kiss a ghost?
Slip that in. Nobody wants that.
They kissed, and later she asked for a ride to her home along Archer Avenue.
Okay.
Once in front of Resurrection Cemetery, just as the story goes, the woman exited the car and disappeared.
Okay, so when she's exiting the car, is she like physically like not like physically
opening the door?
Yeah, or is she like like through the door?
None of the reports say.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
In my head, it's just like they're driving and like they look away for a moment to like, be aware of their surroundings as driving, and then they look back and she's gone.
See, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Or they like watch her just kind of like through and into the cemetery.
I think the reports would include that.
Okay, that's fair.
Because that would just be ridiculous.
Like,
like,
I looked
shit.
back and she's gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
From there we have.
I'm sorry. Could you imagine? I looked back and she's gone, but then in the rear view, she's just like rolling. She like did like a duck
and roll. This guy kissed me and I just met him today. I'm out of here.
Just like, I gotta go. Oh, amazing.
From there, multiple sightings have been reported in 1976, 78, 80, and 89. Again, stating drivers either struck or nearly struck a woman outside the cemetery. So they see someone standing on the side of the road by the cemetery. However, Mary has always disappeared by the time the drivers exit the car to see, oh my God, like, are you okay? Like, I hit a woman, or I almost hit a woman. Like, what are you doing out here?
Yeah.
She's gone. Spooky.
Spooky.
In 1976, Mary supposedly burned her handprints into the wrought iron fence surrounding the cemetery.
What?
There are some pictures online. You can also obviously visit the cemetery. Yeah. There's a part where it looks like the fence is just kind of like fucked up.
Okay.
And some people claim that it looks like someone like ripped the iron and like burned it.
Oh.
But officials at the cemetery claim that it was an accident involving a truck and not ghostly activity.
So they say.
Cover up. That's why they have a 3.5 star rating.
Yeah, Devin's the one that knocked him down. What else could this cemetery be covering up?
So then also on January 31st, 1979, Bill Geist wrote an article for the Suburban Trib telling the tale of Ralph, a local cab driver, local cabbie.
Yeah, you know.
He sees a lot of things.
How awful to be a local suburban cab driver.
Maybe he like goes back and forth between the city.
I'm sure. But still, rough.
Well.
I just think about our towns and what they were in the 70s, and I'm just like, that's gotta be rough.
Especially like Lions.
Yeah. All fucking strip clubs.
A lot of strip clubs and sex shops.
Yeah. Jesus. You know what? Bring back old Lions, okay?
Oh, God. Seedy shit.
I want that resurrection, okay?
So we have Bill telling the story of Ralph, local cabbie.
Yep.
Who had quite the interaction with a woman later to be possibly identified as Resurrection Mary.
Mm.
So in this article, Ralph describes this woman as, he describes her as a look. This is a quote, by the way, quote, a looker, a blonde. She was young enough to be my daughter, 21 tops.
The phrase "a looker" never ceases to amaze me.
No, it's such like a 70s like, slang thing.
Look
it's
at
like,
that looker.
She's a looker.
Yeah, I love it.
A blonde.
Oh, I love it so much. A blonde.
Fucking Ralph. That's the end of the quote. 21 tops. End quote. And she was picked up near a small shopping center on Archer Avenue. And then from the article, we get another quote. A couple miles up Archer there, she jumped with a start like a horse and said, "Here, here." I hit the brakes. I looked around and didn't see no kind of house. "Where?" I said. And then she sticks out her arm and points across the road to my left and says, "There." And that's when it happened. I looked to my left like this at this little shack. And when I turned, she was gone, vanished, and the car door never opened. May the good Lord strike me dead, it never opened. End quote.
I think my favorite thing out of that entire quote is, I looked like this. We're reading a newspaper, buddy. No idea how you looked.
Like, why would you include that in your article? Unless, like, you have a picture of him looking like this. And for those of you who are just listening, you don't know what I look like.
Exactly. And that's where you have to go to YouTube.
Just like how we don't know how Ralph looked, you don't know how I looked.
Just so wild. And also, I didn't see no house.
Yeah, see no kind of house.
No kind of house.
I looked around and didn't see no kind of house.
Ralph seems
Fucking
like
Ralph.
a hootenanny.
What a primo guy.
What a primo
looker.
guy.
Didn't see no kind of house.
Ralph's someone who definitely drinks and drives.
Oh, 100%. Like, he brushes off the old cans of Old Milwaukee as he get in the car.
Don't worry about those.
Yeah. Did you want some? He offers you one.
It's like half full. You're like, no, I'm okay,
Mostly
Ralph.
backwash.
Thanks. Yeah.
It's warm.
Oh.
Ugh.
Fantastic.
So we have that lovely article of Ralph the cabbie, but then we can get into a little bit of research of who was Mary, of the infamous Resurrection Mary.
Yeah.
So there are thousands of folks that are buried at Resurrection Cemetery. Like you said, some of your family are there. Mm-hmm. There are at least 13 quote-unquote famous people buried there, okay, according to findagrave.com.
Oh, my favorite website.
It's actually a really weird
God
website. Damn it. So I found this website because I wanted to see who was like famously buried at Resurrection Cemetery.
Yeah.
there are these 13 famous people that I've never heard of. Like a couple musicians, couple like White Sox, Cubs players, of course. But this website, findagrave.com, you can just like search a name and then like a state, or if you want to look in a specific cemetery.
Okay.
And you can see who's all buried or where they might be buried.
Okay.
So like I did it on my for a few family members. I was like, I don't know where the fuck they are, and like we did that. But then I also discovered that so there are 3 cemeteries near my house here. One of them is very small. The other one's kind of smallish. And the other one's pretty big.
Okay.
And we have in one of the smallest one, we have a Revolutionary War veteran buried there.
Oh,
yeah,
that's kind of cool.
It's really fucking freaky.
That's kind of wild,
but it's really cool. And like just finding out like who they were, and like seeing where their plot is in the tiny little cemetery.
Yeah.
But also in this cemetery, there's like a sign by the village. It's like, we don't know how many people are actually buried here, but there is some bodies.
We've just kind of quarantined the area.
Yeah. So it's really wild to see that. There's like, unfortunately, like a lot of like unidentified baby buried here. And it's like, oh, that's really sad.
That's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. So findagrave.com.
This isn't a plug. We are not sponsored, just so you're aware.
Just, one of my interests.
Bookmarked.
So yeah, like I said, there are thousands of folks buried at this cemetery, which makes it hard to connect any one grave with Resurrection Mary.
Okay.
However, some researchers have focused in on Mary Bregovi.
Okay.
She died in 1934 in an automobile accident.
Okay.
But the accident was in the loop. So it doesn't necessarily match the story of the legend where she was walking home from the O. Henry. But then in 1999, Ursula Bielski, a Chicago author, and I might mispronounce her name, sorry, came up with a theory connecting the legend to Anna Maria Norkus, Maria being Marija.
Oh.
She died in 1927 in an automobile accident while on her way home from the O. Henry Ballroom. Things are connected.
Okay.
And this is the most popular and fruitful theory, seeing that is the person who is Resurrection Mary.
Yeah.
We do have some little fun extra like tidbit information that I found while researching this.
Okay.
So, as we know, this is in Justice, Illinois, and the Chicago Pile 1 that we talked about during our Manhattan Project episode.
Yeah.
Go back now. Is only 2 miles down down Archer from the Willowbrook Ballroom / the O. Henry Ballroom, and only 6 miles away from the cemetery. And I know this is quite some distance, and I know the reactor was operational from 1942 to 43. Most likely 10 years after Mary's death. However, I finished not too long ago this like Godzilla Kaiju book called the Kaiju Preservation Society.
How is all of this going to tie together?
And maybe the radiation from the reactor just kind of like thins out the veil to the spirit realm, and that allows her to pass through and be like, I'm here.
With the jazz hands?
Of course.
Obviously.
She was at the ballroom.
In 1927.
Jazz hands.
Jesus Christ.
So that's my theory. That's my crackpot theory.
Crackpot indeed. When radiation plays a role in ghostly activity. Yeah. Okay.
Well, okay. So in the Kaiju Preservation Society, like the radiation thins out the realms, like the different worlds. Like we have like our world, our Earth, our universe, and then there's another universe where it's like, oh, this is where the kaiju come from. Godzilla, kaiju. And radiation thins that fails, and that's how Godzilla came through and like fucked their shit up.
What about Mothra?
I don't remember if more than one kaiju made it through like Mothra, or if they just took those, in the book at least, if they took those observations of other creatures in the kaiju Earth and took them over to
Got it.
our Earth.
Wild.
Anyway.
I love that you tied not only an old previous episode of ours, but really brought in the element of 6 miles away. The radiation could affect the cemetery grounds.
Hey, man. I'm just saying. I'm putting it out there, all right? You do what you want with this information.
Hysterical. Is Bachelor's Grove at Resurrection, or is that completely different?
Bachelor's Grove is further south.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And that's creepy.
Yes, that one's also spooky.
That's mob related, right?
I mean, what isn't in this area?
Fair point.
I don't know the full story of that one.
Okay.
But I do know that, because I looked it up recently, that Bachelor's Grove is a little further south.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's like 143rd in Harlem, I think, or something like that.
Oh, got it. Okay. I mean, but Resurrection Mary, super spooky, scary.
Very, yeah. And what's crazy too about the O. Henry, which is now the fuck me, I've been having trouble with it the entire time. Willowbrook Ballroom. So it was founded in 1921 by John Verderbar, and this place, it was like really popular, like one of the most popular ballrooms in competition of like the 400 other ballrooms in the Chicagoland area.
I'm sorry.
Which is insane.
400 ballrooms?
Yeah, Aragon Ballroom is one of them.
Jesus.
If you think about it.
I mean, fair. One of the 400, yeah. Thank you.
So this place burned down in 1930. Then it was rebuilt bigger and better than ever. We had like Frank Sinatra, Bob Crosby, Glenn Miller and his band all playing at this place.
At the O. Henry?
Insane.
Oh my God.
And then even when other ballrooms were closing, the O. Henry was like, fuck this, I'm expanding. Let's add kitchens, private party rooms, banquets.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And so then in 1959, it was renamed the Willowbrook Ballroom.
Okay.
First time I said it correctly.
Look at you go.
And by the 60s, like people weren't really like ballroom dancing. But then Willowbrook decided to host like contemporary bands alongside the top ballroom bands. Fuck.
There's a lot of alliteration in this.
I didn't warm up my vocals. Red leather, yellow leather. So like we had Otis Day and the Knights, the Village People, the Cryan Shames. And then in 2000, surprisingly, the Willowbrook Ballroom was named one of America's glorious, historic, legendary, treasured ballroom dance floors in Amateur Dancers magazine.
Wow. And you subscribe to Amateur Dancers magazine, correct?
Monthly. But the crazy thing is that in 2016, the ballroom is once again destroyed by a massive fire.
Oh my God.
Right. So 1930, 2016, there's a lot of conspiracy going on.
Those dates have no correlation.
But the building was having roof work done, which is the suspected origin spot of the fire.
Okay.
Water pressure issues in the area meant the fire department had to wait for tanker trucks. This all seems a little convenient.
A little.
I'm here to crack the truth. We have radiation breaking the veil to the spirit realm. We have most likely an insurance scam for burning down the Willowbrook Ballroom.
I also like that you created a whole new phrase, crack the truth.
What is that not the phrase?
No, I think you were trying to say crack it open and find the truth, and you just went with crack the truth.
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but now despite efforts to rebuild the historic ballroom, half the land is like bought for condo development and all this other bullshit. So you won't be able to go dance with Mary. You might see her on the side of the road. And if you do, just, that she won't tip you and she'll just disappear once you pass by the cemetery. Also, if you just like see a woman in a white dress and dance shoes, you might be in a ghost story. And if you don't believe in ghost stories, you better start believing in them because you're in one.
I'm going to let you have that one. Yep. I was like, I'm not going to interrupt it. I'm not going to try to. Nope. We're going to let that one settle.
Hey, I did great there.
That was perfect.
And that's the spooky, scary story of Resurrection Mary. Woo!
That is pretty cool. Do we think that there's less sightings now because no one picks up hitchhikers anymore?
Yeah, I don't think that, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think they have added a lot more lights along Archer Avenue nowadays.
She can't compete with the lights.
Yeah.
She's like, son of a
You're not
bitch.
going to see some like weird shit now because everything's lit up. Also, I feel like there's a lot more, I don't know, at least maybe in my circle, it's a lot more of like, hey, don't do like spooky, scary shit at night. Like if you see something, no, you didn't. If you like,
got it.
Hear your name being called,
no, you didn't. Keep going.
Right.
Well, that's like, and we maybe one day we'll cover this, but my grandmother used to talk about the story of La Llorona, like down in Mexico. It's like the woman who would like call the children and all of that. Yeah. And she was like, we just kept on like hearing this woman crying, but also like saying our names. And so I was like, she's like, we ran.
No.
I was like, yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many like crazy fucking stories coming out of the Appalachians. Of all like these weird Appalachian things. I had to chicken out of a book that I was reading at the beginning of this month. It was Don't Whistle. It was called Don't Whistle at Night, I believe. And it's kind of like an anthology or a collection of short stories from different Native American tribes. Talking about all of their spooky, scary shit.
Yeah.
And why you don't whistle at night, because it attracts bad things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
My other grandmother never allowed us to whistle in the house. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Probably not. She was just kind of...
Well, she might have been like, you guys are fucking annoying.
Yeah, she was like, these fucking kids. She's like, stay out of the parlor and don't whistle. I was like, okay.
Rules to live by.
Yeah. You know what I did all the time? Fucking whistled.
In the parlor.
No, and she's the one buried in Resurrection. That's funny. Not funny, but you get it.
I get it.
Well, thanks, Dev. That was fun. That was a nice little spooky, scary, and local.
And
keeping it local. Look at you go.
Shop local.
Hashtag. I forgot the hashtag. What do you got? Well, tell the folks where they can find us.
You can find us everywhere on the internet. We are on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube mostly at WhatDoYouKnow_podcast. And we're on Twitter at no, we're not. We're at Twitter at WDYK_podcast.
Perfect. Tell us all the things. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you want to hear about, and get us some engagement. We'd love to chat with you guys.
Yeah, if you have any fun ghost stories, DM us. Let us know what are your spooky, scary stories.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I do like hearing them. You know what I mean? Like, stories to tell in the dark or like things like that. Like, they are fun. You know?
Yeah.
And maybe one day we'll have our own encounters. Again. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.